Welcome to another live stream from Landon Huber Studios. This is the sixth live stream we've done consecutively, or I should say I've done. It's just a one-man operation over here. But it should be cool to see what happens today. So today I'm going to be drawing. So for the past live streams, I first drew Period, which is this guy from my comic book, The Punctuation Men. Then the next live stream, I drew Apostrophe, which is that guy. Then I drew the hench things, who are the little minions working for the evil Runon Sentaunce. And so I'll quickly just overview those. This was the first piece I did of Period. So you can go back and watch the live stream to see me draw that one. There's two streams, actually, a drawing stream and an inking stream. Then I drew this guy, Apostrophe. Then I drew these guys, the hench things. And little explanation of who everybody is. They're all characters from my underground superhero satire comic book called The Punctuation Men, right here. Now, even though I call it superhero satire, in my mind, they really are superheroes. But it's not the story is not told in a super serious way. So that's the satirical nature of it. But anyway, it's pretty cool. I've been explaining these in the previous live streams, but a quick recap. So The Punctuation Man is a superhero comic featuring superheroes based on punctuation marks, right? This is the period. This is the apostrophe. Plus, there's other oddball characters too. This guy, I don't want to bend it too much. This guy is Runon Sentaunce. He's the evil arch nemesis of the Punctuation Men. And these are hench things, which are these little four-armed, gray, crackly skinned, bald guys, which are these guys that I drew last time. And these hench things work for Runon Sentaunce. And this guy is kind of like, he's part of the Punctuation Men, but he's a little bit of an outsider at the same time. So he kind of helps out, and then goes away, kind of thing. So anyway, in the story though, they go and the little evil, hench things for Renan Sentaunce raid a senior citizen care center looking for teeth, because Renan Sentaunce is really like, he thinks he's beautiful except for the fact that he has bad teeth. So this is part of his evil plan, right? And then basically the Punctuation Men come and save the day. This guy is Brad the lotion salesman, and you can see he's got all these bottles of lotion, right? And he uses his lotion bottles to help out, kick butt when it's time to do so. So anyway, I'm selling these right now on eBay, and in bundles, and I'm selling them super cheap right now. So go to eBay, check the link in the description, and you can find those. So what I'm going to be doing today, though, is drawing Runon Sentaunce, the Evil Frenchman. So I'm gonna be kind of I'm drawing him kind of like this is be somewhat of a close up, but it should look cool because he'll be kind of leaning in towards the camera, and like he always has a cigarette, right? That's just part of who he is. And yeah, so let's get started here. All right, let's have some fun. Now, like I said, he's going to be kind of like a close up, but he's leaning in. And the biggest like giveaway for his like design is these big freaking bangs, right? He's got these ginormous bangs. Kind of like a long nose because he's kind of like a sinister character, right? And an evil grin. And bad teeth, you know. Yeah, thanks to you guys, whoever's been, or I should say, for everybody who's been watching these streams. Still trying to build up at the moment. But yeah, hopefully you guys have been enjoying watching the shows. And hopefully, if you like the videos, I sure appreciate like dropping a like or just leaving a little comment. I know sharing is like an extra thing you have to do. Of course, that's appreciated as well. But if you don't have time for that, just hit the like. And that's appreciated too. So here we go. All right. Now, I want him to be holding a cigarette in his hand. So the cigarette is going to be coming out of his, fingers. He's always kind of holding it in his fingers. But I'm still in the stage now where I'm just trying to figure out the image, He's also another giveaway. He's got this little ponytail and this kind of slicked back hair, super slicked, and a long mustache. And what I'm wondering though, I want to try to, if I can, get a little bit more of a perspective of this. So I'm gonna draw a little bit more of his head and then tuck his teeth even back here a little bit more. So just that it seems as though he's a little bit more crouched forward, so that it's a little bit more menacing. Because with drawing, yeah, it's just about like trying to get your ideas out of your head, you know. I've I've of course you learn by drawing from reference, but like, you know, how do you draw a car or a building or whatever. But at the same time, I've always enjoyed drawing more, just kind of figuring it out, you know, instead of just, because then I'm accessing the creative part of my brain. It's almost two different sides of the brain that we're talking about. Like if you're drawing from, he's got these huge gnarly bangs. If you're drawing from reference as opposed to not. Now, you know, for sure, you know, you're going to learn things, but I found if you adhere, and you've probably heard other people say the same thing, but I found if you adhere too closely to basically the like photographic reference, then your image is going to have a sort of staleness to it. Part of like if what you're going for is like exaggerated comics and stuff, you know, breaking away from that so you can exaggerate forms and making stuff look kind of funky and all that, it's all part of what comics are, you know. And when you're too hell bent on like realism or perfection. Now, if that's what you're going for, okay, cool. Like that's, you know, you be you. But what I like about comics is more the weirdness of it, you know, the exaggerations. So, okay, so what I want, you know, my goal. So I want it to feel like he's kind of like leaning forward. So I'm going to put his shoulders up high. He's got this little ponytail back here. And I'm going to try to loosen up a bit because I feel like I'm a little bit drawing tight. Now, and then the cool thing, here's another thing. It's like when characters are smoking, especially if he's like an evil villain, it just gives you a visual tool to use. That's my dog Bucky barking. It gives you a visual tool that you can play with, you know, to make it interesting forms and stuff. So if somebody were to try to neuter, you know, Runon Sentaunce and say he shouldn't be smoking anymore because we don't want kids to think about smoking. And I, you know, I agree, you know, smoking's bad for you. Like it says it on the, you know, on the package. So I used to smoke, but I had to give it up because it was killing me. But anyway, in the world of comics. Like it creates visual interest and gives character context, you know. It's all part of what makes the world's interesting. Why is Joker so popular, you know? Is it because he's a, you know, a sterile, like, nice person with a happy background, or not really? It's because he's insane, and because he's the antithesis of Batman, right? He's the polar opposite. Batman has rules and lives by the rules and the code, right, of right and wrong. He won't even kill. Uh, he won't even kill, like, the worst of his enemies if he can help it, right? But at the same time, he's got funky teeth. I gotta make sure Runon Sentaunce got these funky teeth. At the same time, though, Joker doesn't have it. So that's why he becomes, that's why it works, you know. Joker is crazy and maniacal, and Batman is supposed to be the opposite, even though he dresses up in a bat costume and flies around the town in the middle of the night, you know, looking for bad guys to beat up. But um, yeah, I wonder what's gonna happen though with like these characters, Superman, Batman. Obviously, the Marvel characters came by a little bit later, but at some point in time, um, the DC characters will become um, public domain. So then, when that happens, basically, DC is going to lose their, you know, their, I don't know the word escaping me right now, but basically lose their full control of the characters. Of course, I'm not a copyright law like expert, but see, here's the thing I'm doing wrong. I'm drawing this, there's a bang here, and I'm drawing this stuff, but of course I'm not going to see that. But it helped me to draw it, just to kind of know it was there, I guess. That's kind of sometimes the hard thing with Runon Sentaunce. It's like he's just got these bangs that cover things up. But is it hard, or it's just me fighting my own, you know, propensity to want to draw everything, basically, which is not, it's not really what you want to do. I see, and here's like a little like tip. Me, see, by if I were to make this bang exactly the same as this bang, it creates too much of a, um, you know, they're both the same, but it's more on like both sides, like a symmetry. But just by switching it up a little bit, it's gonna be actually be more interesting. So I'm gonna have that bang on that side making this shape, so that this bang on this side is not making the same shape. Because when you're drawing two, you're also having to think about the shapes you're making, you know. and what they're doing to the eye. So I want to have cool shapes, right? So I don't want them to be too symmetrical. And you'll find that that the asymmetry is part of what, you know, makes something look good. Okay, so I kind of more or less have this upper area kind of figured out now. But we need to figure out the lower area. So I'm drawing him with his cigarette in this hand. Maybe I'll have his pinky out, because he's kind of like a pinky out kind of a guy sometimes. But I might change that later if I end up not liking it. Because I'm wondering, I'm still kind of figuring this out, you know. How do I want these fingers to go? I'm not sure about, I like the pinky out, actually. Maybe kind of a little bit more of a loose fist kind of thing. And then he's got these kind of, another part of Runon Sentaunce is his shirt. This kind of whatever, like corduroy or he's got corduroy. Then he wears a suit. Now, when I want to draw the other hand, but let's think here. How should we do that? Should it come in just kind of like, maybe, yeah, just something like that. Maybe there's fingers kind of come in and they're kind of long and lanky because he's kind of like that. Hmm. And then right here, I'm gonna start kind of blocking in a few big black masses. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of feeling maybe I don't see much of his shirt even in this one. Maybe just kind of his hand kind of filling in this area, because I'm trying to think more compositionally right now than, and shape, you know, wise, than just about actually the context of the picture. I might have a few little strandly hairs, although, yeah, let's see. And then a lot of this area would be shadowy black. And then this area in here would also have like shadowy black. This area here would have smoke strands. Let's see, I'll make that finger kind of down like that. It'd be a little more interesting of a shape. It is, about shapes. And when you're sort of like blocking stuff in, you should be trying to also improve upon the shapes you're making so that they look more interesting to the eye, You can see as I'm drawing here, I'm really trying to keep it pretty loose, Now, on this side, I'm just going to probably show the side of his jacket. And maybe you'll see a bit of this pocket in here. And then that side of his jacket, to, again, with what I'm saying about cool shapes, is going to flare out like this. And then most of this stuff right here will be black. So now I'm squinting. And I'm going to be kind of like going around the piece while squinting and trying to figure out black shapes. And it's a little bit of an experimentation. Like, I want to, I want to discover something, right? Drawing is not fun as a pure sort of like, see, like all this is here is going to be dark because I'm thinking of the light kind of coming down. So it's kind of casting these shadows. But yeah, when I draw, I want to try to discover something. So when he's smoking his cigarettes, sometimes there's these little like ash, little indications of like ash that are kind of like, here and there and everywhere. And again, that's kind of like an interesting, I could have a little bit of smoke down there. That's kind of like an interesting visual tool, right? Because you got big shapes, but the little ash flicks give you the eye the little like, the little like little areas to of interest for the eye. Right? Maybe have his shoulder coming out. When I drew in the first comic, I would usually kind of draw these seams in there just to kind of like, and even his gloves, would have these certain seams, and it's part of just his costume, or the way he looks. But yeah, with comics, like all of this stuff is like make believe, right? you have to kind of suspend your disbelief, because like even like something like we were talking about Batman earlier, so I'll go back to that. So something like Batman, I mean, the whole thing is just a made up thing, right? Which originally was actually, and Superman was too, but it was originally the success of Superman which led to the creation of Batman. And then here we are, you know, 80 plus years later, and the character has evolved and grown, and then they're still selling Batman comic books, like, and they're like the best selling comic books right now. It's kind of crazy, you know. It is rather difficult to build something from ground zero, you know, which is what I'm here trying to do by myself with Punctuation Men. Okay, now I'm I drew his ponytail out here, but now I'm wondering if I wanted more over here. Because he kind of almost looks like a samurai with it over there. Maybe it's a bit of an ear poking out there. Yeah, he's looking a little bit too samurai-ish, which I guess isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I'll use this area to more or less indicate where his, and then kind of like build from there. Let's have his ponytail. Now, to kind of like, because I kind of lost a little bit of my coolness of shape, I'm gonna use my smoke to kind of like create some visual interest just right here. Maybe right there. And he does have like a suit and tie. So I might have a slight indication of just the ridge of that suit here. The tie. So maybe be the other side of the suit, somewhere in there. And then the so these little lapels, or what do you call them? Little flaps of the suit is part of him. We didn't really see any over there. All right, so this is pretty much the picture here. And it's pretty as a picture. Pretty as a picture, guys. Pretty as a picture. Okay, so what I'm gonna switch to now is his jacket. See his shoulder. Where's it? I'm thinking like this is actually like part of his back up here. So we'll figure that out. Somehow the smoke might just kind of strandly through there, but kind of keep it so you can see a bit of his back. Okay, so we're at this the part now, I'd say, where for the most part the idea is there, but it's super loose and sketchy, right? And all the little like details of it haven't been completely worked out like in final form. And also the fact that I'm drawing this bigger is giving me kind of more work to do, but you know, it'll have more detail and be kind of cool. Yeah, some artists, like I know some for some issues, like Joe Mad drew issues of one of his comics, like scaled down, like he drew it half as big as 11 by 17, which is usually the normal size of comic artists work at. He drew it like half that big for the sole reason of speed, because the bigger something is, the more long, you know, especially you're doing it like traditionally, the longer it's going to take you to cover the surface area. So now here I'm just basically going in, and we're going to just start kind of defining things a little bit better now that the basic sketch is there. You know, the the mass of the shapes are there, but the detail of the shapes is what is the next part that needs to be worked out. And this softer pencil here is going to help speed that up a little bit and just make me be able to kind of see it, you know, because I don't want to remove, personally, I don't want to remove too much of my sketchy lines, because the way my brain works is those sketchy lines kind of help me see what's there, see a possibility, right? See a possibility. But if I go clean it up too much right now, there's a little button, then you know, it's gonna become invisible to me. So my cleanup stage is probably gonna come in a little bit after I kind of do what I'm doing here. Of course, as you work, you'll like what I'm doing there, just erasing a bit there. This finger here is kind of coming towards the camera a little bit more, and then just tucking back. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to draw comics, but I'm sure many of you have, and you've probably found out at some point that it's not easy. You know, it's not easy. But I'll tell you, like, even with what AI art can do now, 9.9 times out of 10, you can tell, right? Unless it's been like super, like maybe manipulated or something. It's pretty clear, you know. And even if that gets better over time, I'm not sure it'll ever be like have the soul that human created stuff has. Like, little shout out to Steve Rude. I just saw this video on Instagram of him doing this Superman piece where it was like done in gouache, I think, or he said watercolor, but it could have been looked more like gouache to me. But anyway, whatever it was, man, it was so cool. It was like it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen, you know. Just the style and the texture and the life of it. It was just really cool. So Steve Rude, man, you rock. You're a really good artist, you know. But man, yeah, people like Steve Rude, you know, everybody that decides to do this with their life, to make like art and comics, and it's been their lifelong dream, you know. But as many people may find out, like the there's two different things. Like there's the business of it, and then there's the creative side of it. And the two don't always, I would say the two most of the time, as far as like operationally, they're really not anything similar, you know. But yeah, so just like when you're young and then something you just get a dream like that stuff. I guess I shouldn't say for everybody, you know, some people do give up on their dreams, but I think that has another consequence. And you know, I guess of having a, you know, stability in a big house, and you know, a 6 car garage and whatever is what is important to you, then that's then that's great, right? But you know, some people get those things and it still doesn't make them happy, right? Because I think those things would be nice to have, you know. The um, things that money can buy are nice, right? But I think true happiness has to come from something else besides just that, you know. And I've heard, you know, you hear stories a lot about people who become super successful and then, you know, like Rick Rubin, like who's a more successful person in music than Rick Rubin, right? But you know, you listen to his theories and his story. He said that when he got the Grammy, it was the worst day of his life because it was like he'd never been more depressed, and the reason is because when you're working towards a goal and you're thinking that if you obtain the goal, so you're putting everything you have into it, like for instance winning the Grammys, because you think that that will bring you happiness to fill the hole inside, or the missing piece, or whatever it is, that's motivating you. And then you actually get it, you actually win it, and then if it doesn't have the effect you wanted, like feeling the missing piece, that can be very depressing, because then suddenly you're like, well, I thought this was going to be the thing, right? I thought this was going to solve all my problems, or make my life everything I ever wanted it to be. And then it doesn't solve all your problems, right? Just like having money in and of itself is going to solve some problems, right? It's going to solve your money problems. Um, and maybe your life you'll have more freedom to do what you want with your time, and all that is definitely true, right? But it doesn't solve your spiritual, problems. You're still human, right? You can still die. You can, people in your life that you love will still pass away, and you'll still have to live with that. So there's nothing we can do as human beings to just avoid all the hard things we have to go through as a human being, you know? So winning a Grammy, or being at the top of your field and whatever it might be, yeah, that's awesome, right? And people strive to do that, but so I'm not trying to put any of that down in any way. I'm just saying you have to keep in mind the reality of, somewhere in the back of your head, like this is a temporary. Oh, well, that didn't work out good. This is a temporary, like, world we're living in, right? And so sometimes those thoughts can depress you if you focus too much on them, because you're like, well, I thought being at the top of my field was gonna fix everything, but it doesn't always do that, from what I hear. So you still got personal things, you still got relationship things that you got to deal with. So anyway, yeah, I don't mind going down the reality talk rabbit hole a little bit every once in a while. I'm not really saying anything that people don't already know somewhere. So you kind of so back to the drawing that I'm working on. So you can see, like, basically what I'm doing is just refinement here. Um, all the little, like, shapes that his fingers are making, those are like, he's got these kind of gnarly fingers, like big bones, and then little areas here, and then a big knuckle, and then it kind of gets small. That's part of, like, Runon Sentaunce's, like, little evil, maniacal way, I guess, So, yeah, thanks for joining me. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys being here. If you could drop a like, I'd sure appreciate it. And yeah, if you could, consider getting yourself a copy or two or three or four or five or six or 20 or 50 of the Punctuation Men. Like, if you're a retailer, um, this would be a great opportunity to get a cool comic book at a really inexpensive price that you could, give away. And these are the originals too, so there's a limited amount of them, and once they're gone, then that's it. I'll only be I'm working right now to actually the ebook of this is already available, so go ahead and check that out if you just want to, like, check it out, and you don't want to spend a lot of money. The ebook is already available, so you can find it on Amazon. But, like, there we go. It's cross hatching. But yeah, so the I got a test print because I'm going to be having these available as print on demand also, because I don't want them to just disappear after the limited supply of original print runs, which these are gone. I still want to keep it available. Also, a few months from now, I'm going to be, and I mean, I'm thinking it's going to be somewhere around the time of the 4th of July when I'm going to be releasing issue 2. So I'm working on that in the background. Um, that issue is a long time coming, guys. I mean, there was years when I wasn't working on it, but it's really cool. Like, I learned a lot through working on it, but at the same time, you know, with the limited time I have, I wanted to make sure it was just really good, and I'm proud of it, and I'm already, like, cooking up some ideas for issue 3, but issue 3 is, I'm kind of like crossing my fingers right now, like, just kind of hoping that I can have that created and out by next year sometime. But I don't have a script for it yet, and um but I have some ideas that are pretty. I have some breadcrumbs to run down, that I think are going to be pretty cool. So so all this in here is really going to be black, so for the most part, might be a little cross hatching, but I don't want to get too much, because the more uniform your marks are, then like, when you're cross hatching, the more kind of crazy it is, the more visually chaotic it is, the more it's going to attract your eye. The cleaner and more and less chaotic it is, the more it's going to kind of calm it down. So this is his lapel right here of his jacket. His finger here. Can you guys even see that, what I'm drawing down there? Let me back up the camera just slightly if I can. There we go. Pull this up a little bit. So, let's see here. Get that finger coming down here. And get that cool shape and that cool shape. And two. Yeah, I don't think that button's gonna stay there though. Okay, then maybe that button's kind of like right here or something. So yeah, it's sketchy, but you know, it's kind of all there. Maybe this is just like a weird little strand of hair, you know, sticking up. In the second issue, there's a scene where he's with his barber. Yeah, that's pretty funny. And the barber kind of messes up his hair and gets mad about it. So I hear that since this is the edge of his head up there, that's kind of where I'm gonna cut in highlights, you know. So I drew it sketchy, but now I'm gonna try to refine it a little bit more. And I love using these things because they're just like, it's almost like a little carving tool, you know. Some of my pencils is just kind of old here, so the erasers are a little bit bad. It's the only problem with like pencils and erasers is that the erasers will go bad after a few years, unfortunately. His shoulder kind of a little bit higher up there. Maybe this will just kind of be like those cool like 90s kind of cross hatching. So yeah, I stream every Saturday, guys. So I'm gonna check real quick to see where we're at time wise. Oh, we're almost at an hour. I think I'm gonna go about another half hour here, guys, for this stream, just so you can kind of see it come together a little bit more. But I'm not gonna go, you know, like a full 2 hours though. Yeah, I think these pictures that I'm drawing right now, at some point, I want to put out a trade. That's kind of like, from what I can see right now, that's kind of like the zenith of what I'm attempting to do here with the Punctuation Men. Soon it's going to be a 2-issue series instead of just a 1-issue series, which it's been for years. Just for the fact that I haven't been working on it. I've been doing many other things, you know, but I made the decision to get back into it because I just felt that, you know, I didn't want to die and have Punctuation Men not get the full, like, everything I could do, to try to make it like a known, even if it's a small known IP, just something that's like in the world, and you know, I wanted it to be available. I wanted to finish a few more issues, and I wanted people to know about it. Which over the years, about 1150 or so copies have gotten out there. So there are people that know about it. It's just not, it's just still, it was like an indie book, right? With not big, with never had the big distribution. Of course, I would love for that to happen, for Punctuation Men to get a better distribution. So, every little bit you guys can do to like these videos, to share them out, or even just leave a comment, anything, it's gonna help that happen. Because I could see a Punctuation Man be, someday having like an animated cartoon. Or even if not that, then like just a movie, like even if it was just like one movie. That would be so cool. So, but of course, the only way it's ever going to get to those points is um, if the comic can start getting like a little bit more attention and sales and all that, because the people that are in charge of financing films kind of want to see that they don't have interest in unproven quantities, right? So, unless there are some people out there who can see, like, but that's like kind of like one in a million, like people that can find a diamond in the rough and see the potential of it, and then you know get it financed for like however much it costs. And like if Punctuation Man was actually going to be like an actual movie, for it to be a good movie, it could be independently produced, and it should be on some degree. And but for it to ever reach that level, it would for sure, like, it would need, well, it would for sure need to have like, I'm sitting here thinking like if it would be better with like 3D hench things and stuff. But I almost wonder if the hench, if there was like a way to like kind of do a 3D hench things, but kind of have a claymation feel to them. Because that's the way I see it in my mind, is that the way they move is a little bit kind of claymation-y. Then I think that would be pretty cool. Yeah, so here we are, just still trying to get this picture a little bit more defined, these shapes. That's it. That's all I'm doing. I started out loose, and now I'm just working around the image to kind of tighten it just a little bit more. And yeah, turned out not too bad, not too shabby, not too terrible. So yeah, don't you? I mean, don't you think that'd be cool? See Punctuation Men as a movie. I think it'd be cool. But there's not. It's not. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't call it G-rated. You know, it's not like that. But you know, it's really it's what PG 13 at the most. It's not like Bleen, this other thing I did. I'm wondering if I should have this his hair kind of coming in here a little bit more, like there we go. So that's his hair, kind of goes out here, and then we just see it kind of come in there a little bit. Um, yeah, Bleen was at least an R, you know, for sure. There was, you know, violence and language and all that, and you know, it was a dark horror story, and written by uh somebody that, you know, that's the kind of story that he intended it to be, and um I just went along for the ride because I'm, you know, if you check out my surreal art, it's not that I'm against, um you know, I definitely have some darkness in my surreal art, so um I saw that as a kind of interesting expression of my soul at the time. But you know, one of those struggles I have in my life is like I feel I'm a multifaceted person. You know, people kind of want to have a simple definition of you, of what you are, and then okay, that's what you are. You know, but I've always struggled to just have like a simple definition of myself because I feel I'm a variable, multifaceted human being. Um, but a lot of people are, you know, but you know, it's not couldn't just be me. There's a lot of people in the world who have more than just one aspect to their personality. So I have a dark side, you know, I have a shadow side like everybody. But as Carl Jung would say, you know, you have to like be aware of it and then, you know, integrate it into your personality rather than just sort of act like it doesn't exist. And that's kind of when you get into trouble because then it'll rear its ugly head, right? And you'll be caught unawares, and whereas if you're aware of it, then you can you know, it's kind of like having a, I don't know, Trying to think of an analogy here, but it's like, I don't know if this is the best analogy, but it's like if you have like weeds growing in your backyard, if you're not aware of the weeds, then they're just going to keep growing and growing and growing. But if you can go and if you're aware of them, then you know you need to trim them and kill them, and you know, maybe not a perfect analogy, but I was shooting for something there. Yeah, so yeah, everything at this point really is just cleanup. I think I've gotten the basics of the image there, and everything is just me going around the piece, fine tuning little areas, you know, cleaning the shapes. So, and I do, and like I know some people just go straight to, like, they would have gone to inks like way before this. People that other artists that ink their own work. Um, I just don't do that generally because to me, you know, your pencil is like your best friend, right? Once you start going to inks, things become more difficult to change. So you, as long as it's in pencil form, experimentation is easier, and also kind of figuring it out. Um, so I might as well go ahead and use this. You know, I'm always worried. It's funny, like when I do these streams, I'm always worried, oh, maybe I won't be able to talk, but somehow I'm able to just keep rambling on here. Just the rambling just never ceases. um, Makes it more fun to watch, right? When you can hear me talking. But I may do some streams. I was thinking of just doing some where I don't say anything at all. So let's see if those ones get more views or less views or the same views or. Runon Sentaunce. He's kind of a bad guy. And being that his teeth are messed up, he should actually have a couple missing teeth here. Little curly things on his bangs. But you can see, like, these bangs. I don't know if I like that curl. For the sake of the image, I'm gonna reduce that curl a bit more. Not quite exaggerate it to that degree. But yeah, you can see like one of his bangs appears like longer than the other there. But again, I'm okay with that because it creates an interesting asymmetry. you know, and maybe if I even just don't quite show the bottom of this bang, then it might indicate to the viewer that that bang could be going a little bit longer, but we don't see it. But I just don't want them to be too symmetrical there. But yeah, a little bit about myself. Go ahead and hit the like if you've been liking watching this video. I sure appreciate that. My name is Landon Huber. I'm an artist, a musician, and a filmmaker. I have a Halloween art store at LandonHuberStudios.com. With Halloween is going to be coming up here in just a couple months. It's right around the corner again. If you want to see like a whole bunch of really cool Halloween t-shirts that are right there at a super good price that you can buy for wearing at Halloween time or any time, go to LandonHuberStudios.com and you'll see a whole bunch. So also that's my website. You can find links to my display store where I sell surreal art prints. I have more that I just haven't had the time to stick up yet, but I'm selling the high quality like metal surreal art prints on display right now. You can find my stuff on eBay, Landon Huber Studios on eBay. That's where I'm selling copies of Punctuation Men. So yeah, that's kind of a little bit about me. Should check out my music here on this YouTube channel for sure, because some of it's actually pretty good, if I do say so myself. Not to toot my own horn, but how do you promote without tooting your horn a little bit? You don't want to be like, oh, yeah, it's okay. Which I don't feel that way. You know, I always do the best I can on everything that I involve myself in, and my music is no exception. And when I say it's my music, it is my music. I wrote it and produced it. So the Robots in the Zone was a collaborative effort, but I pretty much produced it, and you can find that here as well. It's kind of like cleaning up these shapes a little bit, but I don't know, guys. I think we're coming to the end of the stream here. But there you go. There is Runon Sentaunce, the evil henchman. Or the henchman. The evil Frenchman. I will probably continue to fine-tune a little bit off the stream here. And then I will be back next week for an inking stream. Thanks for joining me today, guys. Check out my other videos here on Landon Huber Studios YouTube page. I got a lot of cool art process videos. There's music videos. There's all sorts of stuff. So check that out. And there you go. All right. I'll be back next Saturday, guys. Thanks for joining me. Have a good one. I'm going to end the stream here. Take it easy. Peace out.